Hey guys, so today I'm gonna show you a little bit more about how I processed the anamorphic winter photos. So this is kind of the third part of this mini-series. If you haven't seen those, please check them out. There's a playlist now, and you can see the whole process where I was going into the woods and I took the photos, and a little bit more about how I'm doing my editing workflow with anamorphic photos. And in this part now, I'm going to take a look at how I did the editing. So I did the editing in Luminar Neo. The reason why is mostly because I really like the workflow in the software, and it's pretty easy to do some editing with anamorphic photos and to get it to be displayed in the right aspect ratio. So now we're going to go into this one, and I'm just going to show you how I did the editing on this photo. Okay. So this is how the photo looks in an unedited stage. So actually it looks like this. If we go here in the developer, I did nothing. We can see this is the image, how it looked straight out of camera. So first I did a little bit of enhancing. We can see just to make the image pop a little bit more. I also like that it kind of brightens up the image in a way, and as you can see, the snow just gets a little bit clearer, a little bit whiter. I really liked it in that way, so the accent was not that strong. If we crank it up, we already get a really strong popping image, but I kind of kept it more subtle at first. Then I actually did my develop settings, and as we can see, there I did not that much. You can see I mainly flattened the image in this process. So I took down the highlights and the whites, and I pushed the blacks and the shadows. So I made them a bit brighter. So as you can see, the overall image gets flatter and also a little bit brighter. I really liked it in the case because the woods in general weren't really moody. They were kind of bright because the sun was coming through on that day, and it was actually kind of a bright day, and also the snow reflects a lot of light. So all in all, I wanted to make the image appear also brighter as a whole. And this really helped when I lifted the shadows a bit here. Okay, then the next one is the structure. So the structure slider is there to give back a bit more detail, and I did it a little bit here. I pushed it to 14. If you can see, if we crank it up completely, it gets really sharp, definitely over sharpened. If we take it down, we can see it gets extremely soft, and I kind of wanted to give the image a little bit more detail because it was already a little bit soft because of the soft lens that I actually used, and also because of the lens filter. Okay, next thing I used was the landscape section, and I really love one specific slider. That's the golden hour slider, because as the name says, you can really crank up the warmth of the image here. And in that case, that was really nice to just support the look that was already there, because the sun was kind of flat on the sky, and the light was kind of warm, but you couldn't really see that much on the original image, and so I wanted to support that look. And also the foliage enhancer works with the greens, so I also used it a little bit to make the greens appear more green here. Yeah, so that's the before and the after. As you can see, it just makes the image a little bit more warmer, and the greens kind of look more saturated and not that dead, I would say. Okay, then the next one is the vignette. I used a little bit of a subtle vignette there. We already have this vignette here from the lens, because the lens actually doesn't cover the whole area of the anamorphic lens, but I kind of liked it to keep that in a little bit. Kind of gives it this framing, and yeah, I kind of liked it. And in this case, I also used the inner light slider on the vignetting effect. So as you can see, the inner part of the image becomes a little bit more brighter. So it doesn't just darken the edges, but it also brightens up the center of the image. Yeah, so this is how it looks like with this one. Then the sun rays. I really love our artificial sun here. This slider gives us kind of this artificial sun in the image. And in this case, I didn't place it in the middle above here, because this would kind of be the most logical thing to do. You place it where actual light comes from, and in this case the light actually breaks through those trees here. But I kind of wanted to use it in a different way a bit, not just to create the sunbeams that are falling onto our scene, but kind of more to brighten up a specific area of the image. And as you can see, if we toggle it off, the image is a bit more flat than with the sun. So it kind of sets the focus into here, and it makes this kind of, this part of the forest a bit more dark. So as you can see, and I like this. This gives the image kind of a little bit of depth, and it creates the effect that this side of the forest is more bright than this one. And this was how it actually was in the scene, because the sun was coming from the right side of the image here. And so we kind of have a little bit of this fall off here. So this part of the wood becomes darker and this one becomes brighter, because right outside of this side of the image the woods would end. So kind of the sun that was falling through those trees, and from this side to this side the woods actually got a bit more dark. So this is kind of how I wanted to show this in the image again, because it wasn't really apparent on this frame here. Okay, then I used the dramatic slider a little bit. Yeah, I also liked it to make the image appear more stronger and to kind of give the scene more of a harsh look. I didn't really use it much. As you can see, if we crank it up, we get this really extreme kind of scene. But I like to keep it subtle, because I want to keep the soft look. But I also wanted to make it pop a little bit more, and as we can see, it really affects the snow, and it made the snow brighter, and I like this very much. And also kind of resembled more how it really looked like. Okay, then I used the matte effect. This was pretty apparent, but it made sense to me, because I also used the anamorphic lens and kind of this vintage setup, and so I also wanted to make the final image appear a bit more faded. So I just used this to fade the dark parts of the image. As you can see, they become more gray, the blacks become more gray, and it flattens it out a bit. It also crushes a little bit of the whites. You can see that here in the center a bit. And yeah, I use the matte effect very often, because I like the faded effect. It's not that apparent, but we use it a little bit here. Okay, then I use the mystical effect, and I really like this one. So overall, it's just meant to create more glow in the image. Kind of, if you do it too much, then you get this cheesy glowing look. We all know that, and I really don't want the image to look like this. But as we can see, if we use it in a more subtle way, actually it kind of gives us more depth in the image, because it also darkens the dark parts a bit, and it brightens up the bright parts of the image with this glow. And as you can see, in an area like here where we have a lot of whites, it creates this glow around. But we also have some brighter parts of the image that aren't like really big bright spots, where this glow makes the part of the image appear more bright. And overall, this creates more depth in the scene, and also it works very well with this effect that I want to keep specific parts of the image and of the wood more bright, and especially make the left side a bit more dark. And so this worked perfectly for that. And then I added another glow effect. I used the autumn slider because this one also adds to this effect that, as you can see, we just make the bright parts appear more bright. It doesn't really darken the dark parts. There's a way to do that with a soft focus effect, but mainly I just wanted to add to the glow. So this is just meant to give the bright parts a bit more of a glowy effect. And I mean, we already have this glow in the setup from the lens, also with the Pro Mist filter, but I like to make it a little bit more glowy in this case. Then we have a subtle high key. This one also, as you can see, creates a pretty similar effect, and it makes our whites appear more stronger, and I really like that in that case. Okay, then we have the super contrast here, and this slider I really like to use it kind of in the later parts of the editing process, because we can work with the shadows, we can work with the highlights and also the midtones. And what I really like about that is if we added some effects and the bright parts just became a little bit too bright, or the dark parts became a little bit too dark, we can adjust them again. So as you can see, if we slide the highlights to the right, we take them down a little bit. And it also works the other way around with the dark parts. And this is what I did here. So I flattened the image again, so you can see the before and after. We flattened it, and we also create more of a faded look with that, and it also really helps with the colors. So you can see the brown and the woods just get a little bit brighter, and I like that to make it a bit flatter again. Okay, then there's the color harmony, and I did just a subtle edit on this one, just to again make the colors appear more in the way that I wanted, because I wanted to keep the greens in the image, and I wanted to have the image overall warm, but also keep the snow kind of in a natural tone. So this is what I used it for. There were just some subtle changes. Then I added a LUT. The gray slot in this case was fitting really well, but I just added it a little bit to the image because it really worked with the look that I wanted to achieve, and it brightens up the snowy parts again a bit, and really complements the colors that we want to use here. Then I did an enhance once again, just as you can see, to make it pop a little bit more. And then there was the color slider, and this one is very important. We have the saturation and the vibrance here, and the HSL sliders there. And in this case, I took down the saturation and I brought up the vibrance a little bit, and also I worked with the saturation. I took down the blue because we had some blue in the snow, so you can see here, and I didn't want that. I wanted to keep that out of the image. And also I worked a little bit with the luminance values, especially here with the yellow ones, kind of kept it down so it didn't get too bright here. Okay, and also with the hue, I just adjusted a little bit to keep the tones that I wanted to have. And then for the last part, I had this develop section once again, and I used it to do some slight adjustments to add a little bit more contrast to the image, to bring down the whites a little bit, and also I adjusted our tone curve here. And yeah, so this is the result that we got here in the end. And yeah, I really like how this image worked out in the end. It's kind of a moody scene, but still a little bit brighter, and so this fits the overall series of pictures here very well. So, and I also wanted to show you this image from the series, which is this leaf with the backdrops of the woods. It's kind of a brighter one of those images, and as we can see, the workflow is pretty similar. I used mostly 1 or 2 presets that I created for this one that kind of worked the way the first one worked. As we can see, we also have the enhancement, did some pretty similar things here with the develop section. Also took down the highlights, brought up the shadows. We have the structure here again. We have our landscape with the golden hour and the image enhancer, and we can really see how it works here, how the golden hour slider really makes the scenery warm, and the foliage enhancer also brings up a little bit of the green parts. We have our vignette again. I tried a relight, but I didn't use it. Also the atmosphere slider, I also didn't use it. As you can see, it makes no difference. We have our artificial sun again, and this time I really placed it over the center of the image, more or less where the bright parts of our image are. And what I really like about this, or the specific part that is important to me, is this glow that's falling over the trees here. So you can see here they look kind of dark and flat, and here the sun kind of shines above them. And this is where I used it in this example here, because I wanted to have this glowy, brighten part over our leaves here. And we again have the dramatic effect to kind of make it more pop more. We have the matte effect again to flatten the image, to make it appear more faded, and I really like the faded parts here in the snow. It makes it kind of dark and cold. We have the mystical effect again, and this one is also very important here. As you can see, we exaggerate this effect with the bright and the dark parts. It makes the snow appear more bright and more clear. Then we have our glow again. This one, this time also pretty subtle, but as you can see the difference here, makes our bright parts and also the snow appear more bright and clear. And the high key again, yeah, does the same effect. Again, I added the super contrast to flatten it a bit, to kind of push down the highlights a bit so they're not too bright. And we have the color harmony again to make the bright parts a bit more strong, but we counteract that later in the color tab again. The toning I also didn't use. I tried a little bit with that, but I decided not to use it. We have our grace LUT again. As you can see, kind of has a similar effect like in the image before, and yeah, just strengthen our saturation a bit, kind of works with the mood, adds a little bit of contrast here. Then we have our develop, yeah, but this one doesn't do anything. Okay, here we have the enhance, and I tried that, and I took that down because it just made the image too contrasty, and I kind of wanted to have the focus mainly on the leaves here and not to strengthen the parts that are out of focus in the image. So we don't want to make them too harsh and appear too strong. Yeah, then we have the color section, and this is also where I made the image appear more faded. So as you can see, we take down a little bit of the warm parts to make it a bit more moody, bit more cold. Also we take down lots of the blue parts here because I just wanted to keep the snow clean, so that the snow really appears white and not too blue. I don't really like the color cast there, so kind of make it really make the color that's warm, make the brown stand out more, and this works really well if we don't have too many other colors around here, especially not the blue. And then we have our develop section one last time I added a little bit of contrast there and also took down the highlights a bit. If we take a look at the whole edit of the images, I mainly used those kind of tools, adjusted them a little bit, and this is how I did the post-processing workflow for these images in the end. So I really hope you like the breakdown of the post-processing, and if you want more kind of those videos, just let me know, and go check out the other videos. If you want to see all of the photos, you find them on my Instagram account here, and yeah, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any future videos, and have a nice day. Bye!